Welcome back to Fire Emblem Echoes, Shadows of Valentia. It is the final bonus part, however, we're in for the long haul. Before we begin, I have ranked my units from lowest rating to highest, with the exception of Celica, because of course she has to be on the top, but I'm just going to say right now, anyone who is below Mycen, you should be ashamed of yourself. Mycen has not fought once, and he is number 20 on this list. Alright, so getting up to the top, technically Cliff is better than Atlas, but let me tell you, I would prefer to bring Atlas into this one. He's needed. So yeah, Celica would actually be 3rd place. So still pretty good, but Matilda is my number 1 unit. Just felt like that would be fun to go over before we begin, and we'll check that again after we're done with the dungeon. Okay, so yeah, this one. This is absolutely a dungeon you do not want to take lightly. It's also one that I do want to like, because the setup's cool. The execution, however, is going to be a thing. So, beginning of Thabes Labyrinth.
An ancient fallen capital. Its people drowned in their own magic power. This place has slumbered for centuries as a result of their greed.
Well, alright then. This is Thabes Labyrinth. Let none set foot within its cursed halls. Well, if you didn't want anybody going in, why did you put treasure in here? Alright, so that's pretty much your last warning. Once you enter that door, we'll be in it proper. So, this is a long dungeon, so much so that I sped up just about everything in this one. So, for the most part, walking around is gonna be double speed, fights are triple speed. Yeah, no, this fight was, let me just, bring up the other non-com version of the video. That one is 3 hours, 31 minutes, and 20 seconds, so if you're looking at the runtime, yeah, I needed to speed this up. Alright, so like I said before, I like the setup of this one. It's gonna start pretty simply. We have just normal-ass bandits. These guys are about as tough as the ones we fought on the boats, and thanks to the fact that I grinded for overclasses, that means I'm more than ready for them, but as long as you've gotten to Arcanea, you should be able to fight these guys just fine. But I am warning you now, if you want to get through the entirety of Thabes Labyrinth, it is a 10-floor dungeon. So that's a thing. Real quick, also special mention to Alm's crit animation. Apologies to it for the fact that I had to speed it up, but yes, his crit animation is that he slowly walks up to somebody and just slashes them, and it's so good.
Do you happen to know the second longest dungeon?
Oh god, not off the top of my head, no. Well, actually, no, it would be, the tower at the end of Celica, Duma Tower. That one was like 5 floors, though, right? Yeah, I think that was half the length.
Something like that, yeah. I just wanted to put into perspective how absurd 10 floors is.
Uh-huh. So yeah, I don't like Thabes Labyrinth in its actual setup, because 10 floors is ludicrous, just in terms of design. Yeah, like, Fire Emblem is a series where, if you sit down and take on, like, one of the longer chapters of a given Fire Emblem game, it'll usually be like an hour long, right? Like, you're not usually sat down there for more than just an hour. Maybe a little more if it's a particularly difficult chapter. Three Houses, of course, has a lot of between-chapter stuff that you can do, but, like, there's also usually, like, saves for Three Houses' case, and, again, a normal fight is just about an hour. That's just one map you have to think of and worry about, and that's it. So I said I like Thabes Labyrinth, sort of the setup of it, and part of the reason of that is you start with these normal-ass bandits. The farther we get in, the more the enemies change. And that's cool, because when you start Thabes Labyrinth, you're just fighting the normal guys who are trying to pillage the early floors before they get in over their heads and find the horrors within. But that also means, if you get to floor 1 of this dungeon, you might be tempted to think, oh, I can take this all on, I'll keep going. This dungeon absolutely gets harder.
Yeah, anytime there's something that's balanced like that, where like, well, you can get through floor 1, but not floor 6. How dare you waste my time like this?
Uh-huh. Alright, so we are at the end of floor 1. They won't all go this quickly, but, we have this backstory for a character named Fornius. In time, he would be feared by all. So, I do also like these stone tablets. I like the story of Fornius. He's not a name you will hear in the rest of the series, but, Arcanea in general, of course, in this game is a reference to other Fire Emblem games. This is the continent that the first game takes place on, and also the third. But there are other Fire Emblem references as well, not just to the original Marth games. Oh boy, more dungeon yogurts. Look, this is just the second basement yogurt, however. You get down to the third basement, that's the premium shit. Now, I think by the time you get to second basement, you're still fighting easy enemies. However, I believe at this point they're actually ghosts. Actually, no. Okay, so they're not ghosts at this point, but they are weirdos. We have all of the cultists who are down here for nefarious purposes. The thieves are here for the treasure. These guys are just perverts who love dark magics. Also, a good idea for the dungeon, if you're looking to prep for this one. Abandon all of your wines, don't bother, because there aren't any save points in this one. You have to do it, you know, all in one relative go. The good news, of course, is this is a 3DS game, meaning the intention was that if you wanted to take a break, you could just close the system and leave for a while. Perhaps forever. You could just leave forever. It's fine. But yeah, no, you cannot save. But you also cannot disperse stamina regeneration, which means wine is absolutely useless. So if you need to stock up, which you've probably noticed by now, crates do have items, so if you're willing to risk getting attacked by enemies or spend longer in this dungeon, you can get more items. That's the good thing. But yeah, wine, completely useless. Can't use it. Now, thankfully though, I do have overclassed units, which means, my strategy here is very easy to pull off, and that strategy is, of course, aggression, aggression, aggression. Yes, Valbar is here, he will have his uses, but you want to just go in fast and kill everything you can as soon as possible. The less you have to risk your units and spend stamina, and especially the less you have to spend turn wheel uses, the better. Also, I did not get all of the turn wheels in the game. If I did not already bring that up in the last episode, which I don't think I did, here's just a list of the other places to find the cogs. I believe 12 is the number you should end up with if you get everything. So yeah, if you want more turn wheel uses, which legitimately you might want those, especially if you don't have overclass, yeah, I'd suggest going after those. I did not feel like trying to figure out which ones I did and did not get, and if I forgot any of the ones in Duma's Tower, oh god, I would not be happy. I already have to do this dungeon. I don't need to go all the way to Duma Tower and back for a cog. Let's see, I think any other precautions for this dungeon? Honestly, since level ups don't, like, refresh your HP or anything, legitimately, I might actually suggest getting to level 20, before coming here. I know you said you didn't really need to grind that much, but it might be a good idea to just be at max. I know it's not as interesting if you're not leveling up through this, but just make sure you're as strong as possible so you can't be surprised by anything. It's just a good idea.
This dungeon is going to be boring no matter what you do.
Yeah, so... Alright, we're at the end of the second basement. Typically, most floors start and end and perhaps even starts with more Fornius backstory. So, Fornius wanted to raise the dead. He was all about those zombies, so, you know, he and Duma share a few things in common. Duma probably would have wanted to smite him were he in a better state of mind. He might have been back in these days, who knows. But anyway, if I remember correctly, you said that your experience with this dungeon is basically nothing, yes?
Yeah, I didn't do any of the post-game stuff. I didn't even know there were enemies at sea that you could fight.
You know what? I feel like you had the best experience, not even bothering. So my experience was a lot more fun, and you can probably hear the quotes in fun. So I did cross the sea, as I mentioned. It was a bit of a struggle without doing any real grinding. But I did manage to make it to Arcanea. I made it to the dungeon. Now, I'm going to say, I don't think I would have made it all the way through all 10 floors. Basically, I was playing this on a trip at one point. So, you know, I was just in the backseat plugging away at this, and, you know, I was making pretty good progress. I don't think I would have gotten through it, like I said, because I was starting to use turn wheel uses around floor 5, which is when they really ramp up the difficulty. However, I did not run out of turn wheel uses and game over, nor did I get any surprises on whichever lord I was using, Ulm or Celica. No, I had the experience of finding a fun glitch where I attempted to use the turn wheel, and I went back to the beginning of a turn, or like the beginning of a fight after losing one of my characters, because I just needed to rethink my entire strategy for that floor, or something along those lines. Except I found that apparently there are instances where if you press left one too many times, you can actually go past the beginning of the fight on the turn wheel, and that crashes the game.
You went too far back.
At that point, I put the game down and did not try to do Thabes Labyrinth again. This is my first successful run of the dungeon. I don't think anyone would blame me for that because, good lord. Like, okay, there's actually a pretty cool surprise at the end of the dungeon if you are savvy to the rest of the series. And, you know, it would have been cool to find that on my own instead of looking up what was at the end and going, oh, that's neat. Not finding that myself, though. But yeah. Still, I wasn't gonna try that again at that point. Alright, so we have skill and luck fountains. Both are pretty valuable, though skill's probably what you want just so you can get more, hit rates and crit rates. Though, if you want to prevent crits, luck's not the worst choice, and of course, luck is just your every stat. It goes into a bunch of things. What does it go into? You probably can't remember at a given time. But, Gray is in the fray a lot, so his luck shouldn't be so garbage. Anyway, I'm gonna mention on this floor, this room has an increased drop rate for silver marks, and if I remember correctly, you can actually leave and come back in, and the drop rate will still be high. But after that, if you try again without leaving the dungeon completely, then it just lowers and it's just a normal grass room. There is also a room in this dungeon that I think is going to be sped up that has a gold mark equivalent, so if you cut the grass, you will actually find gold marks in it, which is pretty useful for grinding, except you should really have max level weapons. That's the other thing you need to bring with you, just make sure all of your weapons are the best they can possibly be. Just that's something you can do without DLC. It's difficult, of course, getting enough gold marks, but you get a bunch of them from starting all of the post-game stuff, so you should have a decent amount for what you might want. Alright, so this is monster floor, I have realized a while ago. Eventually we do have ghost floors, but you kind of get the point. It is basically just a progression of enemy types, and the lower we go, the less human we get. And that's cool, I like that idea. I just wish there were like, I don't know, at least 3 fewer floors. You could just put all of the various slabs of information about Fornius throughout the floors, and just not have as many.
This dungeon is only 10 floors because they didn't have any good idea of pacing for the Fornius tablets.
I mean, they don't have any good idea of pacing, that is a correct statement. So, I think the 3DS is in general where Nintendo really started doing sort of their, like, post-game hard finale thing. Well, they kind of started that back in the Wii with Mario Galaxy 2, but, like, there was a point where they really started ramping those up. And 3DS was definitely where it was, because I distinctly remember the stage from Mario 3D Land that you get at the end. I cheated that one with the Tanuki suit, of course, because that's an annoying stage, but yeah, like... They did this a lot, and it's fine for Mario, because Mario stages are comparatively short. Like, you just have to learn a stage that has some particularly difficult bits of platforming, or you could cheat with the power of flight, thank you 3D Land. I don't think that really works as well for Fire Emblem. Like, maybe a super hard small fight would have been nice. I would have been fine with that. But, like, 10 floors, this is never what I'm looking for in a Fire Emblem game. Despite, like, look, okay, yeah, I have mentioned you can absolutely close the 3DS and walk away for a bit, but even still, like, that's just taking a break. Theoretically, you could do that for any game, but, like, I think you do need to keep in mind that, like, if you take a break and come back to a thing, you're probably still gonna be tired of the thing when you get back to it. Like, this is an annoying dungeon. Closing the 3DS just means I've gone to pee. That's it. I won't come back and go, oh boy, I'm back here. I'm so ready to keep on moving in the Thabes labyrinth.
So you mentioned Nintendo and their incredibly hard post-games. I think you're right in that this is the point where that started to become more commonplace. But one of my favorite examples of a way too hard post-game in a Nintendo game is Pokemon Gold, Silver, and Crystal.
Mm-hmm.
Because Red's Pokemon are way too high level for the game, to the point where you can't grind to beat him unless you're willing to take, like, hours.
Yeah, it sucks. Like, you can get to Red, and that's just fine. Can you beat him? Probably not. By the way, it's hailing as well, because fuck you, that's why. Alright, so Fornius wanted to create an army of the dead, and also a single perfect being. So, you know, bit of a diverse profile, and oh hell yeah, Basement 4 yogurt, this is the good shit. We senators sent forth messengers to Fornius, none returned. I do really like the tablets of information, and I kinda get staggering them a little bit. Having this whole long-ass dungeon isn't worth it for the pacing they're going for, though. And to be fair, I'm watching this back, so with all of this speeding up the pacing slightly better. This is the amount of time I want to take between tablets in real time. In terms of actually playing the game, oh good god. This is also where the enemies are starting to get difficult. At this point, we can still kill these guys pretty easily, and we can also avoid that second section of enemies, but everybody's deciding to miss, so that's not helping. Thank you, Ulm, for sniping that man. But yeah, no, like... in terms of, like, just the super hard post-game stuff, I never did beat, like, the real finale of Galaxy 2. I got through the normal level. I never beat the Prankster Comet version, because that one's just a fucker. But yeah, I also eventually managed to get the 3D World 1 in the remake. Not with all characters, just some of them. And I even managed to get Mario Odyssey, which is one of the only, like, one of these that has actually felt good. Just because of the way Mario Odyssey works, I didn't have to worry about lives being a thing. And also, look, it was difficult and I had to go through it a lot, but I felt like it was well made. And I enjoyed it. I'm trying to talk about iterations of that sort of thing that I like, because we're in Thabes Labyrinth. I'm gonna steal the tagline from King's Castle, but it's Thabes Labyrinth, fuck you.
I'm also trying to think of difficult Nintendo post games that I like. I am so bad at doing post games. I have too many games to play just in the first place, so as soon as I can say I'm done with a game, I will just, like, yeet it off over the horizon. I need to move on to the next one.
That is honestly fair. Like, unless there's, like, something really, really good, post-game stuff is kind of so-so to me. I am trying to not, like, feel like I need to 100% things in general. If a post-game is interesting enough, I will go for it. But yeah, no, stuff like this, like, there's a reason I never even came back to Thabes Labyrinth until this LP. I just wasn't interested in doing it myself, and, I might have even half considered not bothering, or just, like, if I failed in this, I might have just not... You would have seen me get up to a point, and then I would have just done a puppet show for the end. Here's what happened if I had survived.
This would have been your Joe Amon moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and part of the reason for that is, I absolutely would have cheated if I could, with save states. Like, hi, yeah, I don't have so much pride that I wouldn't have just fucking save stated and not had to have done this all in one night. I would have loved to not do that. Would have enjoyed getting halfway through and going, oh cool, here's a break time. For some reason, Citra just doesn't let me use save states. I don't know why. Maybe I don't have something correct toggled. I don't know what it is. They're in the menu. They don't function, so I can't actually use save states. Just know, if I could have, I would have. I'm not gonna pretend I'm this amazing gamer who would never do so. No, I would. I absolutely would. It's Thabes Labyrinth, fuck you. Oh hey, this is a fairly ordinary group of people. Just kidding, now these are the ghosts.
I remember I did the post-game stuff in Sacred Stones. Not all of it, but some of it. Because, one, I was a kid, I had more free time. But two, that was the only Fire Emblem game I had. So, like, if I wanted to play more Fire Emblem, I had to play Sacred Stones. So I ended up doing a lot. I ended up doing more in that game than I did in any other Fire Emblem, I think.
Mm-hmm. Now the question is, did you get through Tower of Volney and Lagdao Ruins 3 times each for all of the bonus characters you can get?
I know I got through Tower of Volney, and I'm pretty sure I did it multiple times. I don't remember if I did Lagdao Ruins even once.
Honestly, Lagda Ruins isn't anywhere near as hard as this one, but I can absolutely see how, especially if you're a kid, you're just gonna look at that and think, no.
I might be wrong, but I think as far as the GBA games are concerned, Lagda Ruins is the hardest thing in any of them.
If we're talking about just normal things, yes, you do have to recall, though, that Hector Hard Mode exists and
God.
is a thing. That is the infamous thing in the series.
Yeah, I forgot about Hector Hard Mode. I just remember one of the things about Sacred Stone is that people used to hate it for being too easy because you could grind in it, but it also had the most difficult, some of the most difficult stuff in the franchise to justify the grinding, more or less. So, in my mind, that balances it out. But yeah, I guess Hector Hard Mode kind of throws that out the window.
Real quick, I'm using the pair of boots I got here and the one I got way earlier in the game on Gray and Celica. Gray because he's underperforming for being all the way in the back, Celica because she's the main character, and I want her to be able to go places. Third character I considered was Sonya, and she really could have used it even with her mage ring, but considering where she's positioned, she kind of winds up being one of the weaker characters in the party. I think her and Valbar really underperform. Though at least, Sonya can get a few pot shots off, though. Mire and Death, I said this last time, but they really are not as fun as they could be. A lot of the other overclasses have, cool, good things about them. These two new spells are neat in concept, but, in practice, they're basically the same spell, but one does a little more damage. And again, one has the skull, so there's also that.
So anyways, the name Fornius sounded familiar to me, even though I knew nothing about this dungeon. Do you know where that name comes from?
I do not.
I'll let you talk about this tablet if you want to, and then I will say what it's a reference to.
Alright, real quick, I do like the just beginning of, we sent messengers to Fornius, he shot them all, and then we just sent actual soldiers, and they're gone too. That's fun. Anyway, yeah, go on.
That could have been one tablet. Fornius is a demon from the Ars Goetia.
That's okay, yeah. I probably saw that in passing at one point.
He has 29 legions of demons under his rule. He teaches rhetoric and languages, gives men a good name, and makes them be loved by their friends and foes. So I feel like they just picked a name at random.
Oh, absolutely.
Because, this does not seem to line up. He is commonly depicted as a great sea monster, but his name seems to have come from the Latin furnace, as in a furnace, an oven. I don't know why they made that a sea creature.
The Ars Goetia just does some shit.
Yeah, God, that's what I love about it. You can just do whatever the fuck you want. Also, I can send you how he is portrayed in the Shin Megami Tensei games if you would like.
Alright, yeah, sure. I'll fit that in here.
Alright, here he is.
Oh, wrong side of that. Okay, so what's this tablet say? Thus, the council chose to seal Fornius' workshop with him inside it. We cannot kill this man with an army. Just bury his workshop and don't think about him anymore. This is as good as it's going to get.
We just put a big rock over his workshop.
Alright, we did it. Mission accomplished.
He's gonna head out for snacks. He's gonna get so pissed.
But yeah, I would say that the numerous legions of demons would be fitting, except every Ars Goetia demon has many, many legions of demons. I know this from the many times I've had to look that up to including the one time I just had Ars Goetia demons in a tabletop campaign I ran.
Considering he seems to try to be making some method of making more, maybe he's just they saw the Fornius furnace connection And they're like, oh, it's from the Latin word for furnace, like you used to make weapons, so we'll use that for our name. But like, there's got to be a demon that makes weapons.
It'd be weird if there weren't. Okay, I think we're at this part of the basement, right? Big circular room coming up? Not quite. Okay, so 5th basement is a long one, and I'm gonna be honest, I'm surprised I've gotten so far talking about the game itself. I figured I would have segued by now, but there's actually a decent amount to talk about. Including this butter we got. Oh god, I'm losing it. I'm talking about butter. There's so many items in this dungeon, but I would find it really funny if I did just get to the point where I had to force people to eat butter to survive. Alright, Atlas, take one for the oh, he's just going at that. Oh. Ooh. Just the whole stick, huh, Atlas? Alright, so we come across this arena, and oh look, a fire dragon. Well, I guess we could go around, but let's just fucking fight this fucker. Okay, so brethren, we want to murder that man as soon as possible. We want to murder, that bow knight as soon as possible. I would prefer as many of these characters right here are just not here anymore. My strategy is going to be the same for basically the entire dungeon. I will turtle every once in a while, but this is one where I really needed to be aggressive. And yes, this is absolutely the first fight that really made me start using turn wheel uses in my personal file. And you can probably tell why, because this looks like it's going smoothly, but I don't have enough characters to keep it smooth, and also, again, I have overclassed. Overclassing is pretty broken. Also, that man got a crit because of course he did. Thankfully, Atlas exploded a man. So yeah, I was absolutely worried after the enemy phase began with me getting hit by a crit. I'm not worried, however, about the zombies because I can just remove him. So yeah, one of the reasons I would not suggest turtling here is, 1, there's way too many guys, and B, that fire dragon is kinda killer.
The post-battle dialogue is incredible still, at least.
Mm-hmm. Alright, Celica, have some cheese. You've earned it.
Can't be picky on the battlefield.
Alright, so once we just have everybody eat some stuff, we can turn our attention to this tablet over here. The seal they used was made to last until the city crumbled to sand. Well, I mean, a lot of stuff has crumbled and there's a lot of sand, so let's just pick up this shield that looks a lot like the Fire Emblem of Arcanea, but isn't. It's just a different seal. And now this big door's open. I'm sure this was a good idea, right? Let's check out the shield real quick. So let's see. Sage's shield. A shield that held something in Thabes at bay. Gotta love the word something. It's just incredibly ominous.
You know, it's one thing to make a seal that might not last after you're around. It's another thing to make a seal that will intentionally fail whenever you're no longer around. Like, okay, world's problem now.
I mean, to be fair, the man would be dead by that point, so provided he didn't make anything else that would outlast him, it should have been fine. Alright, so welcome to floor number 6. We're now halfway through. This is where the dungeon stops fucking around. I also looked through the HP fountain right there, just to see who was maxed out on HP. Because a lot of characters were actually maxed out on HP, so... Alm at one point did have a near-perfect level. He just didn't get HP because he couldn't, and he didn't get resistance because this is Fire Emblem Echoes. Alright, so floor number 6... I think we have a tablet almost immediately, right? Nope, we have these guys. So, we have masks. They are villager classes. These guys are very durable. They look like normal people. They should be normal people. But, clearly we are in the fucked up experimentation zone. Because again, they're tough. It's a group of 3 people, and we really have to try against them, and we're getting a ton of experience as overclass characters.
You said villagers, and my mind went, "Oh, good, they're giving you a break." Nope.
Absolutely not. And to be fair, in more recent games, villagers have been forces to be reckoned with eventually. Alright, what do we get here? We get the Blessed Bow. I don't need it. Atlas is doing just fine. Hunter's Volley is just keeping me alive. Skipping that fight with more masks because we've already seen that one. Alright, this is the tablet room, right? I wanted to wait and see what it was. Okay, so, now we're getting to the good part. Since we're underneath the seal, the tablets we read are now from Fornius's point of view. So he's gonna start talking about shelled insects. I don't believe they're ever named, and they never actually... it's not like a reference to anything else in the series. It's not something that'll appear later on. I should have gone backwards because there's a treasure room. I had to do a couple more fights that I didn't need to against this particular group. You won't have to worry about the second one. But as you can see from this first one... Og. I'm just gonna say Og. This gets very tough.
So anyways, I control F alchemy on this list of demons, and I found a demon alchemist by the name of Bareth. In addition to being an alchemist, he is a liar when not answering questions.
I feel like that would have worked.
To speak with him, the conjurer must wear a silver ring and put it before his face in the same form as it is needed in other demons' case. And I need you to see the image drawn for him in the Dictionnaire Infernal.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so he's from Shrek. Got it.
He does look like Farquaad, yeah. Especially since I think he's wearing red, yeah. Wearing red clothes, golden crown, riding a red horse. Anyways, yeah, they should have gone with Bareth.
Mm-hmm. Look, somebody on the team was just adamantly against the Barrett Aerith's ship, so... just didn't go with it. So... Valbar is poisoned. I'm just gonna make note, I don't think Gray inflicted any status effects in this dungeon whatsoever. I forgot to check if, like, literally every enemy... No, they don't have any skills! Gray, what are you doing? Nobody actually got poisoned or stunned or anything. I forget what that move is based on, but whatever it is, it must be one of Gray's bad stats. If it's luck, that explains a lot. If it's skill, then what the fuck? At least Phalanx kept going off. Phalanx is just... I'm pretty sure we're going to see it at one point. I don't think it's from one of the cut battles, but it is a lifesaver. Alright, so anyway... We made it down 7 floors, but I think this is where we hit Tangent Zone. Unfortunately, in the time since Silphco, AI has gotten far more evil, so
Yeah.
that's not really an option anymore to just generate random stuff about Selka and Ulm or some shit. Got a bunch of gold marks, now I have to do fights again. Hooray. So, I figured I would just, describe the random manga I've been reading, because, I've been reading more recently. I've been thinking, hey, I should read some stuff. And then I just went with books with pictures in them because I don't care what anyone says, I just deal with those better because I have aphantasia. Not to say I can't read books and get, real quick. Thanatophages, if I could actually pronounce it correctly. So yeah. That is a combination, of course, from the name Thanatos, the Greek god of the dead, and the shortening of bacteriophage. So, yeah, bacteriophage is just a replicating virus, or is a virus that replicates within bacteria. So, now we know what those masked, corpses are that are shambling about in this end of the dungeon, so anyone who became a ghost, got off lucky. Everyone down here is now just a zombie with weird bugs in their masks that just keep their bodies moving forever. So, there's one potential problem with a seal that doesn't last forever. Whoops! Fornius was trying to make an army of the damned, and speaking of damned, now we have Deimos units. Okay, this is the last relevant thing I really have to talk about, I think, for a bit. Deimos are pretty tough. More for their ability to use the fire spell than anything else, because, that one didn't do too much damage, it wasn't too fast. But of course, this being Fire Emblem Echoes, nobody really has the resistance to put up with that sort of thing, so you want to catch them quickly before they can start attacking you at range, or you're kind of screwed. Anyway, though, yeah, so, been reading a lot of manga because, look, I can get stuff out of books and, prose and whatnot. It's just easier when people have made nice illustrations. And even then, I can sometimes have difficulty parsing action, in still panels, but, whatever. I prefer, watching JoJo to reading it for that very reason. But yeah, no, I've been enjoying things I've been reading, and I haven't really been watching the, anime equivalents that frequently either, like... God, what would I have watched? Like... I don't remember if it started with me reading Stone Ocean, but I did read Stone Ocean, then I watched it when it actually came out, but again, that's a different thing entirely. I was planning to watch that all along. I never watched either of the Full Metal Alchemist animes because you've given me the problems with them, and I went, yeah, no, I don't need to watch these. It's a really solid manga, and I don't need one series where the beginning's fine, but then they didn't know what to do after they caught up with the author. And then a second anime, which Brotherhood's the better one, right? It just has a rushed beginning.
I want to make it clear. I think most people prefer the 2003 anime because it was more accessible than the manga, so more people watched it than read the manga. I think that almost everything the anime changed for the manga is worse.
Yeah, they made Sloth a hot sexy for some reason, and look, I like Lust's design, sure, but they didn't just need to make a Lust recolor.
And what was the name of that one serial killer that inhabited a suit of armor?
Oh, shoot, yeah, I know
Barry
who
the
you're
Butcher.
talking about. Barry, yeah, Barry.
They made him like a real threat.
Yeah, that's a stupid decision.
Like, we have real threats. Barry can be a joke. We don't need to see him in his human form kidnapping Winry and immediately turning her into a damsel in distress in her, like, second or third appearance, you fucking cowards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, the most effective he got was giving Alphonse an existential crisis.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, maybe his first appearance in the manga was not a complete joke, but every appearance after that, he's like talking about murdering women all the time, but like in a weird, goofy way.
I'd even say, like, he gets undercut when he tries to be threatening, because he's just like, oh, I'm a big murderer, I do all the murders, I'm so scary. And then Alphonse just removes his head, and he freaks the fuck out. Like, oh god!
Also, like, over half the cast are war veterans, like, killing someone is not a big deal. Like, everybody in this cast has killed and will regret it for the rest of their life.
Also, real quick, I'll clarify, the bugs are called thanatophages. I got that wrong earlier. I thought the thanatophages were the masks, but whoops, nope, I was incorrect. Anyway, so yeah. Moral of the story is you should read Full Metal Alchemist, it's fantastic.
Yeah, one more thing and then I'll stop bullying the anime. There are some points in the manga where there seems to be like an anti-cross-dressing thing, like they're enforcing gender roles, but like I think those are on accident, and I say that for like a spoiler reason I don't want to get into, but like they take pains to point out that one of the evil characters who cross-dresses is evil, not because they cross-dress, and might be one of the less evil villains they have to fight. The anime does not do that. The anime doubles the fuck down.
Ugh.
Like, there's a filler episode early on where there is a girl who is wearing boys' clothes, and that's treated as like a major fucking problem that has to be solved by the end of the episode.
Boy.
And like, this manga was written by a woman with like hard-working, like, female family members who probably wore pants all the time. Like, there is that. I'm gonna look up her fucking name, so I don't just have to keep calling her the author. Hiromu Arakawa. There is the one quote from her of, like, men should be strong and women should be vavoom, but like, that's a joke. You see that in the Armstrong characters, and that's it. Also, in the 2003 anime, Armstrong sisters are all ugly. The joke being that they look like him.
Of course.
Again, people don't compare the 2003 anime to the manga, they compare it to other anime at the time. And I could see that, but like, I read the manga first, and everything I see about the anime is just like, this is worse. This is worse. This is worse.
Yeah, no, Olivia fucking rules.
I will never tell someone that they shouldn't like a thing that they like. However, every time I even think about watching the Fullmetal Alchemist anime, I get a headache.
Is this where I have a near-death experience and almost have to use the... I think it is, so I want to be ready for that. But yeah, no. Full Metal Alchemist, phenomenal manga, highly recommended. And then both of us also watched another thing I would call phenomenal. Oh, wait, here it is, real quick. So I almost fucking died. Thank you, Phalanx, for being the best fucking move. But also, I love that the fire breath attack is just like one of the fucking multi-hit animations.
It sounded like a machine gun going off. Also, I, Valbar, will not die in fire.
God, just the fucking rapid fire battering is so funny. I do just want to hear a fucking warble scream whenever somebody's taking that kind of hit. Just... It would be so funny.
Get him, Valvar.
But anyway, yeah, we both read Golden Kamuy. That, yep, exceptional.
Yeah, I don't know how to tell someone that Golden Kamuy is good. Like, I just always ever heard good things about it, and then I finally read it, and like, oh hey, this thing I've only heard good things about is good. Who'd have thought?
But now you're in that same boat, like...
Yeah.
It's hard to talk about it without giving, like, the best parts away, because there's so many best parts, but...
I think the best non-spoilery summary I could do is that it is, it's a mad world played a bit more seriously with just an ever-growing cast of fucking weirdos.
Yeah, important thing to note, cast of weirdos, very important. Lot of male nudity, which, not my thing, but you know what? Glad it's there. Also, apparently Fornius got blood from a divine dragon. That doesn't sound great. Oh dear. Anyway, though, about all of these very large, very naked men. So, like, okay, I read this stuff at work. Golden Kamuy was one of the ones where I'd get to a panel and then kind of just have to, hold my phone closer and maybe just, count my blessings that I'm at the end of a room, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, the end of the like, hot spring one, like, the characters get ambushed at one point. And it does just end with them going, it's the middle of the night, we can't see anything, and we don't have any clothes on.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I do appreciate this one right here,
Senate!
where from Fornius's point of view, he's just like, wow, damn, thanks, the Senate. You just gave me messengers and soldiers, and now I have all their corpses I can use for my army of the dead. Also, the only, I think the only instance of, female presenting nipples in the entirety of Golden Kamuy is the more middle-aged woman who, I'm not going to say Sophia's not hot, but also she is, older and has been through fights, so she's not the traditionally beautiful young lady type.
I was about to say, the way to phrase it would be not conventionally attractive.
Mm-hmm. Not conventionally, but definitely. Unless you're a coward.
It's probably how I should have described Armstrong's sisters in the anime, but I just said ugly instead because I am not very sensitive.
Going for. At the very least, I'm sure that was someone's intent. Was just, haha, they look masculine. But yeah, no, Golden Kamuy, just really good. Another solid read. Let's see, we're on floor 9, so we're actually almost very nearly close to the end, except we've got a half an hour left still.
God.
So let's see, Chainsaw Man you've read part of, and I'm caught up on. I will say, Chainsaw Man, I feel, is one of the few things that has gotten, super esoteric, I can't say by the end, but, by the end of Act 1, it gets a little, floaty and kind of philosophical, and I feel like a lot of media that does that tends to be boring. I don't mind philosophy talk, and in fact, I'm quite fine with it. I just feel like a lot of times it's disconnected from character, and that's what I'm actually there for. A lot of that sort of thing is just a bunch of characters going around and be like, blah blah blah, philosophy, at each other. Chainsaw Man gets weird in a very similar sort of way, but it feels like it still stays true to the characters at the end.
Mm-hmm. I feel like you said that specifically to get me to read more Chainsaw Man. Because I feel like I'm a pretentious asshole at this point, so it's like, people discussing philosophy at length.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm trying to think of, things I watch where people do that. So there is a series of novels that got adapted into films called Kara no Kyokai, which I think translates to, The Endless Boundary or something. It's written by Kinoko Nasu, who is more famous for the Fate series, and this is technically part of the Fate series, but don't worry, it's good, I promise. But that also has a similar thing where they have 3 characters who have very strong personalities and very strong opinions on whatever is happening in a given movie/book. So there's a lot of philosophy discussion, but it all comes from the point of, this is what the character is like, here is what they would believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that to me is just infinitely more interesting than just, hey, we're trying to be deep without really grounding it in the reason I wanted to watch or read this in the first place. I think that's one of the reasons I didn't really like Twin Peaks: The Return, because, look, I liked original Twin Peaks, and I feel like... oh shoot, I'm blanking on his name.
The director?
Yeah.
David Lynch.
Lynch, that's right. Okay, yeah, so yeah, David Lynch. His work isn't exactly for me for that kind of reason, but, like, I feel like I was able to get a distilled amount of David Lynch in the first, I think it was 2 seasons of Twin Peaks, where I was able to enjoy what was going on, even if it got weird. But then, yeah, The Return was just a whole lot of weird bullshit, and I was so bored by it. It's incredibly not my thing.
I'm sure there are people who like that season a lot more because of that, but...
Oh yeah, absolutely. People dug it, I think.
I feel like David Lynch can be pretentious in the way I don't like. Like, to me, when I say I like pretentious things, I just like it when the works try to be smart, might be the best way to put it. What I don't like is the type of pretentious that comes from, like, there is only one right way to do something and any other way is bad. Like, there's a famous voice clip of David Lynch complaining about people watching movies on their phone that makes me just want to shove him into a locker.
Yeah, like, for the most part, I like David Lynch, and I don't necessarily like his work. I think that's just a case of, like, he has very particular things he's looking for as, you know, the person directing these. So, like, the idea of just put thing on phone is just like, oh no. Like, I do think you lose a lot by having, you know, like, the whole thing just kind of shoved into a small square that you're going to be paying some attention to, but I also don't think that necessarily ruins the work forever, and I feel like there's always the potential that you're still going to get things by watching something on your phone, and hey, maybe if you do like it enough, you'll go back to it on a bigger screen and, you know, be able to see things you weren't able to notice before. And if you don't, maybe you wouldn't have cared anyway. It's none of your business, David Lynch.
I'm also a big proponent of accessibility. And not everybody can go to a theater or have access to a theater that plays films that aren't currently being released.
Oh god, yeah, theater stuff especially, like, okay, not phone can also mean television, and people can access that, but if you're saying, like, oh, you have to be in the theater, we have a plague going on. It hasn't stopped, even if we try to ignore it. We still have the plague out there. We can't go to the movie. It got worse when everybody did. Barbie and Oppenheimer just came out, and cases of COVID went up. You don't need to go to a fucking theater.
Yeah. So, like, when I say I'm pretentious, I mean more like I like films that people might think are too slow because I think they say interesting things or just weird in a way I like. My go-to example is always Angel's Egg because that, for whatever reason, people seem to like that film, even if they aren't normally into weird films like that.
Mm-hmm. I wasn't super into that one, and that... If it weren't for the art style, I might just, like, completely pass it, but, like, no. Amano does deserve to have just more work in general. Just... God, what a good fucking artist. But yeah, no, that's one of the things where I am like, I can't really get connected to this. I would prefer to know the characters more.
Yeah, I need to look up something now that we mentioned Amano. In the year 1996, Amano was the world's highest earning artist.
Fucking good for him.
He earned $40 million, the equivalent of $75 million in 2022, due to the sale of silk screens, lithographs, and etchings based on his book illustrations.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next year, more common folk, I guess I could say, started looking into his work because Final Fantasy VII was released internationally, even though that was a Nomura one.
Yeah. He did do some of the concept artwork, but, like, you don't see Amano's Final Fantasy VII artwork that much. Like, if you don't go looking for it, you might not even know it exists.
I just love Amano for his dedication to making everybody as androgynous as he can.
Uh-huh. Amano and just the character design in the Mega Man Zero series is just part of the reason my interests are the way they are.
Also, one last thing about
Also,
Angel
this formation
Egg.
fucking sucked.
I recommend people watch it just to see Amano try to redesign Jesus Christ. That's a bit of interpretation on my part. I don't think there's anything in the film that says he's Jesus, but there are some things that hint that he's Jesus. It is just funny to see anime Jesus made by Amano. Also, the director is Mamoru Oshii, who was a Christian at one point in his life, and Christian things keep popping up in his work, so I think he's Jesus.
But yeah. I mean, I would absolutely at least suggest watching Angel's Egg, even if it's not my thing. This is a good experience, at least. Sometimes you just need to experience things.
Yeah, that's another thing I recommend that people just not hyper-specialize themselves. Like, you can have a favorite genre, and you can watch you can spend most of your time watching just that genre, but I would recommend going outside of it every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy for me because my tastes are very eclectic, and I just tend to like the things. But
yeah, same.
Before we move on from the pretentious talk, I have to ask, on the scale of, like, pretentious to character-driven, where does Evangelion fall for you?
Oof, I feel like that's character-driven enough, especially since, like, the finale is entirely based on character.
Yeah, because I had that thought of, like, what you described is technically what happens in the TV finale of Evangelion. Everybody's just sitting around talking. But it's all Shinji inside of his head talking with apparitions of other people and what he thinks they're like.
Yeah, and that is what is interesting to me, so that's why I like that one. Even though apparently a lot of people don't.
Yeah. We have to understand about Evangelion is that despite being so weird and on what I would say is the pretentious scale, it has mainstream popularity. So there are tons of people watching this that have never, like, encountered anything this weird outside of this. It's like you show these guys anything from, like, the French Nouveau art movement and their heads will explode.
So... Also, if you've noticed the cuts and the reductions in, turn wheel uses, yes, I absolutely have fucked up, in this battle especially. Anyway, though, other things I have read recently, I'm caught up on Spy Family. Again, that's one that I have read, but haven't watched. Apparently the anime is pretty good, though. But also a very good reading. Thing in particular I want to talk about is that, like, it has a lot of concepts that would be annoying if handled by most other stories, but it works in this one. Like, the entire basis of the series is just miscommunication, but it's actually saying something about miscommunication. It's on purpose, it's the backbone of the story, and it's all very purposeful. Yeah, one character who is a spy doesn't know that he's fake marrying a assassin, he just needs a fake wife. The other character, the assassin, who needs people to stop thinking she's so weird, so she needs a fake husband. And then their adopted Esper daughter, who is basically the reader stand-in, because if she's on the scene, she can hear the character's thoughts. Which is also one of the reasons that there's, like, so many asides in the manga. You know, just, like, little bits of text that, like, appear outside of text bubbles that you usually associate with, like, characters saying things under their breath. There's a lot of that, and I appreciate it, but also, like, it makes sense that that's there because it is probably being heard by Anya. And, like, both the main characters have sort of side characters that dislike the fake spouse of their respective characters. So, like, and they're, like, both characters that I shouldn't like, but are done pretty well. Yours brother character does not like Lloyd at all, because he's an overbearing brother, which would normally just be kind of eye-rolling and, you know, kind of annoying. But he's fucking crazy, though. Like, he is actually just part of the Nazi allegory. It's not even really an allegory. They are literally just called the SSS. They are the antagonists, but, like, he is part of them because he wants to support his sister. So he is just really fucking crazy. Also, this is a mean fucking trick right here. Couple of fountains over there, dragon right in front of them. And so let's check out what this fight is like once everybody's had their food. Eat the garlic, Gray. And so this fight right here is a fucker. Hi, hello, dragon time. But anyway, yeah, Spy Family. Fiona, the character that's kind of connected to Lloyd, is probably my least favorite because, you know, she seems very stern, but she secretly really likes Lloyd and wants to be his fake wife instead because she loves him. She just doesn't outwardly act like that. But, like, both she and Yours brother are characters who are sort of results of the way each character acts. So, like, Yours brother is crazy because she took care of him so long, and now he's returning the favor, again, by being a Nazi. And just being completely overbearing. Fiona basically has taken just Lloyd's general attitude as a spy and the lessons he gave her and just sort of run with those. So they are the repercussions of the way both characters exist before this fake marriage.
If it isn't my old friend, the consequences of my own actions.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, just a very funny manga about just the consequences of not communicating well. And then, I guess the most fitting of all of them, the one I'm currently reading, is Dungeon Meshi, which I think is translated as Delicious in Dungeon. But I'm reading as Dungeon Meshi, so now that's just how I'm going to remember it forever. Sorry, anybody else who pays attention to the series. But yeah, no, that's a very fun manga about, well, it's one of those video game fantasy worlds, or like, it's a fantasy world that has a lot of game mechanics as if they were a real thing in that fantasy world. But like, this one's done really well because there's a lot of thought put into it, and fitting to the title, a lot of the way the world is presented and how you learn about a lot of things is over food. Let's see, Fountain of Speed, Fountain of Resistance. God, that's good. But, you know, no, just it being about these, like, killing fantasy monsters and using them as ingredients for food is just a very fun setup in general, but it is used very strongly just to reveal new interesting bits of information about the world in different ways. In fact, like, one of the more normal meals is just, like, bread. They make bread, but also that's in the chapter where you learn about sort of the dispute between orcs and the other species around the dungeon and whatnot. Alright, so we've got a tablet here, so what's this one say? I love this line. Day 80, I gave it my blood. It grew. Gotta love a good Itchy Tasty-esque line. I'm not going to say brevity is, a surefire way to get good horror. Bad two-sentence horror exists.
Oh man, we should have read that.
But typically you do want to keep it short when you're trying to be creepy, and that works fairly well, considering everything about Thabes' stupid labyrinth. Alright, so let's see. In these boxes, there's actually particular rusted weapons, which have the chance of being the weapons Astra, Soul, or Luna. There's apparently a 0.06% chance for one of those to drop, and it's the final floor. That's fun. Anyway, this one's slightly less ominous than It Grew. This is just the usual, he's gonna keep going on, but then, oh whoops, suddenly he can no longer dictate because whatever he's been growing killed him. Whoops. So, good news, Fornius did die eventually. Bad news, he made something a lot stronger than him. So some things you might see right here might seem familiar if you've played other Fire Emblem games. In fact, the creation might look a little familiar. I won't give its actual name, but if you're familiar with other Fire Emblems, you've seen the creation before, I'm sure. So, I'm going to make this look like a bit of a breeze, but please remember, I am using overclasses, so I have a lot more levels than they would expect from a player who didn't, we'll say, spend money, in my case. Certainly. But yeah, they expect people who didn't spend money to still be able to beat this. That being said, after 10 floors, unless you're playing harder modes, this isn't like an impossibly hard boss. Just be careful, don't underestimate anything. And again, recall I'm using DLC, so maybe don't wander in and just start smacking these things, because they're very strong, even for these characters.
So I know we don't have to fill dead air anymore, but I did pull up a bunch of bad two-sentence horror posts, if you're okay with me reading a couple.
Yeah, the main strategy here is to just kill things as they come. Things get teleported in, you don't know what reinforcements look like, you just gotta roll with things. And also, please observe the creature's range, because it is very large. Anyway, go on.
Alright, I just pulled up some random fucking listicle listing a bunch of the worst ones that they could find. Is this legal? I asked him. We will make it legal, the baby seller replied.
The baby seller has a lot of influence. I think the horror here just comes from how easily our government can be manipulated.
There's so many implications from this and none of them are scary, they're just funny.
Are you not afraid of lobbyists? I don't know, I'm shaking in my boots after that one. The baby selling lobby is so powerful. Wake up, sheeple.
Don't know if I'll be able to read these. An eye for an eye leaves the world blind, thought Eddie the Eye Eater as he began to feast.
What? He's just thinking that as he goes. It doesn't actually pertain to anything he's doing, because he's just eating eyes.
Eddie the Eye Eater is just... That's the new mascot horror game.
Eddie? Yeah, we're gonna be seeing him in the next Haunted PS1 demo disc, I'm betting.
Eddie the Eye Eater is the next FNAF killer. In the I've not been able to get through a single one of these without laughing. In the middle of the night, your dog stands on his hind legs and says, "Nobody will ever believe you." Then you see him grab a kitchen knife and run into your parents' room.
Okay, we're actually almost to the end of the fight because I sped it up. I am more terrified of that dog than I am of the creation. Even though the creation has Dark Spike, so can attack from a distance, halves damage taken, reduces evasion if you're close to him, and just can't be hit by status effects. Also is God, but don't worry, you don't need to use the falchion to finish him off. So anyway, I guess the strategy then is to just not be close to him so he can't hit you with that evasion lowering. Gonna speed up a little more before I actually bother fighting him, but what's your last one? What do you got?
Let me scroll through a bit to make sure I get the best one. Okay, here we go. Your insurance isn't covering the birth. If you don't have another way to pay, we will have to put it back.
Can't pay for it? Alright.
See, that could work in some sort of like satire horror thing, but when it's just those two sentences, it's incredibly funny.
Alright, so I saw that flaming witch and decided, no, I'm going to kill the boss now. So, here's why Atlas is overpowered. He has so much range that the creation can't actually counter him. And then Atlas proceeds to double crit this motherfucker. And then here comes motherfucking Matilda to end the day and the life of this thing. Oh, you lower her evasion. She doesn't care. Get dunked on. Didn't even hit me once. Obviously, should be wary on harder modes, and if you don't have overclass. Please don't assume you're just gonna waltz in and fucking steal his wallet like I just did if you don't have overclass.
Serves them right.
Alright, well, we killed the thing that was sealed far below the surface of the Earth. It will revive if you come back to Thabes Labyrinth so you can fight it again, but the horror has passed, so I don't know. Yet still a foul air lingers, filling this place with a sense of dread. I'm sure it's just, it's just a gameplay thing. This thing's dead for good otherwise. We get our final memory prism, and we can leave Thabes fucking Labyrinth at last. Thrum of despair. I did it. We contained the menace trying to bring ruin to the world. I wonder why it only said contained. Oh well. Anyway, that's done. It's done. We're fucking leaving. Alright, so back to Feria Harbor. I'm going to unrust some of these weapons and whatnot because I have so many silver and gold marks, I don't know what to do with them otherwise. So let's see, one bow. Okay, steel bow, that's not too good. This, however, becomes Luna. A bow designed to be especially lethal, unlike other bows that are just fucking around. Alright, next off, the rusted shield we picked up from a chest becomes a second Draco shield. And then the rusted ring becomes the demon ring.
Many thanks.
Alright, so I'm going to equip some of these other weapons to other people just to see if that raises their rating any. Let's see, so the demon ring we got from the creation gives attack and skill +5, but reduces defense and resistance by 5 as well. Doesn't have any other sort of cursed effects, so it's not like, it automatically kills you or whatever. It's just an ominous ring. It also eventually gives you a skill called Reconstruct, which apparently shuffles 2 of the stat users, or the stat growth rates around, which is buck wild. So yeah, I'm gonna do a little bit of changing stuff around. But we'll see the final rankings in a moment. We'll just see how much our other characters grew as I look through various items. I keep Lucas's shield on him for a bit, but I think in the long run I don't, because Lucas's shield kind of sucks.
Take that, Lucas.
I mean, it's certainly no second Draco shield, that's for sure. And, well, I mean, Sonya, you're gonna just be a weird witch on a mountaintop anyway, so might as well get the demon ring. Congratulations, you own a witch's house, and now you're just cursed forever as well, because I put this ring on you. This is how rumors start. Alright, so I think that's it, right? I think that's it. We're gonna leave Furia Harbor, we've taken care of the creation, and now Celica and Alm can go back home. So, let's check out final ranking. Noma is still the bottom of the pile because he just sucks. Est I didn't really use enough. The rest of you should have done better. Shame on all of you. Gave Leon Milla's bow, didn't really help him. Luthier got the keepsake ring. I think I gave Cliff the Grimoire ring, since technically it works with his class, even though it doesn't. I'm not going to use it anymore, so you're not going to see it, but technically speaking, he should wear it. Alright, Tobin managed to get to the 20th spot, so he climbed a bit. Mycen went down a rank. Alright, and as we can see, Atlas naturally made it to the 10th spot. For some reason, though, you know, rating obviously is not a perfect representation of how good a unit is, because Atlas did just fucking double crit the creation and made that fight into a joke, so like, even if he comes in at number 10, he's pretty high up in my heart. Matilda still takes rank 1, though. She did actually finish off the creation. Anyway, here's the last memory prism. It's Mila and Duma before they went separate ways. No, I'm not making a separate uncut and cut version, I'm sorry. Look, it's been an hour and a half. Just about. I have a non-com version if you want to hear this conversation without us talking over it. But we're here to say goodbye, because it's the end. I made it, I survived.
They didn't bother making a non-shadow sprite for Duma. You're not gonna bother cutting out our commentary over this one scene of dialogue.
It's dialogue you could assume anyway. It's an okay way to cap off the game, to just see the final conversation, or the first conversation that started it all. The sibling rivalry that would be everyone else's problem. At the end of a separate dungeon that has nothing to do with those two, and instead is just about some fucker alchemist who wanted to make a zombie army, and also a really big dragon made of God's blood, and his own blood. Alright, well, that's it for Fire Emblem Echoes. With this, I'm done. I'm free. Fuck you, Thabes Labyrinth. You should not have been 10 floors. I am happy I got through it. It's not as happy as I could be, because it was at the end of 10 floors. I was tired. I went to bed afterwards. That was my celebration.
Alright, next week's genealogy, right?
No, next week's Monster Party. Bye, everyone. I don't even know if this is going to be a sequential order thing. I mentioned this before, we have a whole ass LP I've only just begun editing, but I wound up getting all of the, bonus footage done in a timely manner, so, all of this is coming right after the, LP finishes. I say right after, but you can look at the fucking dates these uploaded. There's been staggered releases. One last time, fuck you, Thabes Labyrinth. Cool setup. I just wish they kind of took both ends of the dungeon and just pushed them towards one another. Just squish them down like they were an accordion. Please.